Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, William Boor. He does such an amazing job over at Action Network. Take a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. We're going to be chatting with him about what we've all got here in this ALCS as we did get a game number 7. That is going to be incredible. We're going to be looking at all the nooks and crannies of that. We're also going to be discussing if there's any team whatsoever that's able to slow down the LA Dodgers, if either of these teams are going to have any sort of shot whatsoever, because, man, they are really up against it there. But we are going to be discussing that, and we're going to take a look at what we might get in this game number 7, because I do expect a lot of hoopla. I expect there to be a lot of intrigue in general, so we're going to be looking at all that and so much more. We're in for a fun chat with William in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis for game number 7 as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's the naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they're making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever with EdgeBoost. They make sure that 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to EdgeBoost.bet, make sure you put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in Game 6 of the ALCS. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Well, here has been the trend in the ALCS. Lots of overs out of the 6 games here in this series. 5 of them have won over, and the home team is now 2-4. The Seattle Mariners fall to the Toronto Blue Jays by kind of 6-2, as this was not Logan Gilbert's day. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, given up in 4 innings, as he allows a pair of home runs. Vlad Guerrero Jr. had 23 home runs during the regular season. How about now having here in the postseason 6 bombs at Addison Barger? He was able to go deep. That is his second home run of the postseason. You did have Trey Savage give up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings, including a home run to Josh Taylor, his third of the postseason, but 7 strikeouts, rock solid there. Louis Varlin farts out of the bullpen scoreless, so he did allow an inherited runner from Savage to score. Jeff Hoffman, 2 scoreless innings, and for the Mariners, they preserved much of their bullpen. Matt Brash does give up a run in an inning, but Edward Bizzardo filled 2 innings on just 15 pitches, scoreless. Carlos Vargas, a scoreless inning of his own, and for these teams that have been the favorite in this series, it has been very, very interesting to say the least. As the Blue Jays, they were able to get it done as the favorite in this one, but we have seen all throughout this round, the ALCS and the NLCS, the favorites being able to come through. I believe that the underdog has only been able to cash now 3 times, so we do have a lot of intrigue there, and we've got ourselves a lot of fun to be taking a look at in terms of a Game 7 in the ALCS. We're going to be chatting about that with William Boor, and we're also going to be taking a look to see if either of these teams have a shot against the LA Dodgers. On the flip side, right here on the Baseball Betting Show, myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN family of podcasts.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got William Boor aboard. He does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He is over there at Action Network, keeping his finger on the pulse of just a little bit of everything. I know that he's been doing a rock solid job on the college football front. I know that over at Action Network, if you're able to bet on it in the continental United States, they've got something for you there. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at WBoor. The last name is Boor, and then a W in front of that. And William, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Of course, Greg. Always happy to hop on and talk baseball with you.
Always happy to have you aboard, William. And William, just what have you made out of these playoffs thus far? Because we are getting set for game number 7 between the Blue Jays and the Mariners. We're doing this as they are wrapping this one up out there in Toronto. And I do feel like we've got ourselves a lot of intrigue there, but it does feel a little bit hollow with the ALCS because I just don't know if either of these teams have much of a chance against the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think these playoffs overall have been fun. I think this ALCS has been really fun. I'm glad we're getting a game 7. After 2 games, it looked like this was going to be a quick series. But you're right. I feel like there's kind of this overwhelming feeling of, hey, let's enjoy tomorrow because game 7s are awesome. But there's a reason that I'm looking right now that the Dodgers are around minus 200 to win the World Series without even knowing the opponent. Like, that team is just so good. And then the downside of the game 7 is going to be, you get into the fatigue area, although there are a few off days. So you can maybe restart your rotation a little bit because you'll have, I think, 3 days off. But it's just, I don't know, I guess maybe you kind of hope the Dodgers are rusty or something and you can steal game 1. But they seem like such an inevitability that it does kind of take a little bit of the fun out. I think during the game, it'll obviously be fun to watch. You're going to get wrapped into the game and the drama is going to be captivating. But I feel like as soon as game 7 ends, we're all going to look ahead and be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you there, and that does beg the question, out of these 2 teams, the Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners, which do you think has a better chance of being able to give the Dodgers some sort of series? Because we're in agreement. I don't think that the Dodgers lose to either of these teams, but I want to get your thoughts as to if either of these teams could be able to stretch this to like a 6-game series.
If you would have asked me this, a week ago, I would have said the Mariners. I like their roster. I like the way they finished the season, especially when they started up this series 2-0. If they made this a quick 5-game series, you could set that really good pitching staff. And I was feeling really good about Seattle. But now, and obviously we'll see what happens in game 7, these past 4 games, the Blue Jays bats have really woken up. And I think it'll be interesting, obviously, the way Snell and Yamamoto are throwing is really insane right now. But if Toronto's hot at the plate and slugging, maybe we get a slugfest of a World Series. If you can kind of get a couple off Snell, get him out of there. I mean, the Dodgers bullpen is not necessarily known for holding leads and being locked down at the end of games. So I kind of do lean Toronto to have a better chance of that if they can stay hot at the plate.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, as William Boor does such great work over at Action Network is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. How big is it that this Dodgers bullpen is completely revamped? Because I'm right there with you. That's been their weakness all season long. It's been the bullpen, but I know that Clayton Kershaw has had his postseason struggles, and boy, oh boy, has he had his postseason struggles. But you had in there him, you had in there as well Roki Sasaki, you had in there Emmett Sheehan, and now it just feels like the team that had only one weakness has 0 weaknesses.
Yeah, that's true. I'm still not necessarily sold, but it's definitely been better now than, throughout the year. And I think it's the playoffs, so they're using it differently and using people differently. That would be Toronto's one edge. So you've got to see Toronto's or Seattle's one edge. So you got to see what's happening. But you're right. If they are throwing well in the pen, you've got, like I said, Snell and Yamamoto throwing well in the rotation. The bats are the bats. If you're not able to break through on the bullpen, you're right. There's no weaknesses, and then it's just an inevitability.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's just been wild what we've been seeing out of the LA Dodgers all season long, and certainly this is a team that has things so rock solid, and I mean, just what do we make out of the Toronto Blue Jays that they've been playing so many overs in this series as well, because you mentioned it, their best chance in a 7-game series against the LA Dodgers is most likely going to be a slugfest, and we're seeing that here in this series against the Mariners, where out of these 6 games, 5 of them have gone over the total.
Yeah, I think this is just who they are. This is a lineup with a lot of good hitters, and right now they're all feeling it. You're going to hit overs if Vladdy's going to homer every time he comes to the plate. He's just on fire right now, and when you've got that in the in the middle of your lineup. There's the big cliche of hitting is contagious, and right now it's really hard to argue that with the way the Blue Jays are swinging the bats.
Yep, they have been on fire with regards to the bats here as William Boor does such great work over at Action Network is joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, and that leads us into what we are going to be getting in game number 7. And if you look at the game 3 starters, it was George Kirby against Shane Bieber. We are doing this as we don't know exactly who's going to be pitching in game number 7, but would you expect those guys to be the starters, and then, for lack of better terms, it's all hands on deck from there, or do you think that they might go in a little bit of a different direction?
I think those guys are either the starters, or we'll call it the bulk guy if either team tries to get kind of a little cute or something to maybe get through the first inning. But I think we will see both of those pitchers for multiple innings. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I do think that it does lead into something very intriguing with regards to how to utilize those Game 4 starters as well, because a guy like a Max Scherzer, I think that they could actually bring him out of the bullpen. I remember they utilized him when he was with the LA Dodgers a few years ago to actually close out a series against the San Francisco Giants, and I think we could see some just very wacky stuff in this game number 7.
Yeah, I'm with you. Seattle has a good staff overall, especially if we're talking about a game where everyone's an option. If you just do a bunch of starters, for 3 innings each or something like that and piece it together that way, or Game 7s are always interesting, and I think we could get something interesting here, or just some creative pitching managing. Obviously, when you do that, there's always the potential that it blows up and is a disaster because you'd have people pitching in roles and situations they're not used to, but that's what makes it fun.
Yep, it certainly does. And with regards to this game number 7 as well, how big is it that the Seattle Mariners do have a guy that has been a rock-solid starter all season long in Brian Wu, which, again, we don't know who's going to be starting or not, but I'm assuming that they're not going to start Brian Wu in this game, but they could have him come out of the bullpen for multiple innings, and I do think that that might give Seattle a little bit of an edge here, even though the Blue Jays obviously have the likes of Chris Bassett and company, who were starters throughout the season as well.
Yeah, like Wu probably coming out of the pen, a very good starter. This could be something to, bridge the gap or whatever. He could give you innings. Shoot, he could come in the 5th and just finish the game, or give you the 4th through the 8th or something like that. And that's such a huge advantage, if you're able to do that, if he's comfortable with that, if that's the route Seattle wants to go. I could really see it working.
Yep, I could as well, and I do think that with regards to what we're going to be getting on Monday, it is going to be so intriguing. And who would you give the edge to if it is the guys that we're thinking that it's going to be with regards to Shane Bieber against George Kirby? Because we saw Kirby very much get roughed up in that game number 3, and for Shane Bieber, it's not like he's been necessarily the world's sharpest ever since coming off the injured list as well. I mentioned it with the Seattle Mariners. They are probably going to have Brian Wu at their disposal. I do think that the back end of the bullpen with the likes of Andres Munoz, Matt Brash is a little bit better, but at the same time, you mentioned it with the Blue Jays, they also lead the big leagues in terms of runs per game ever since the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, this is if you think that Seattle staff has a gem in it and can shut them down. I think it's really going to come down to who's starting and obviously what the price is. I took the Mariners to win the ALCS as a series bet before this, so I'm probably, as far as the money line's going to go, probably just going to sit that out. I like my number there. I like this team as a whole. Like, I really like Seattle as a team. I've talked about them numerous times on this show. I just wish that, they finished stronger after jumping out to a 2-0 lead. Like, it kind of scares me the way Toronto's heated up, but just as easily as you heat up, you can cool down. So I do think with some of the pitching variations that we've talked about, I do give Seattle a slight edge, but emphasis on slight.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And then I do want to wrap it up with this because as of right now, a little bit TBD as to what we're going to be getting in that game number 7, but we are going to be getting that game number 7. Has there been anything that you've been doing differently with regards to your handicapping here in the postseason as opposed to the regular season, or are things relatively rather status quo? And then additionally, might there be a little bit of something different that you might do for the World Series, or again, is it just a case where you stick with what is very much tried and true, especially with knowing the LA Dodgers and their dominance?
Yeah, I've really been betting it pretty much the same. I think when it comes to the World Series, I'm obviously going to have the Dodgers favored to win it, probably have them favored in every single game. The only thing I might do differently that I would look at price-wise or something is maybe take the underdog on the run line a couple times, depending on the number. And thought process on that would just be, would just be maybe they can break through against the Dodgers bullpen. And maybe if they don't come back and win, if they, score 1 or 2 off the Dodgers bullpen, maybe that does pull them within the 1.5 or something like that. Obviously, we don't have numbers yet, so I don't know, but I could see myself probably doing that in the World Series a time or two.
Yep, and that's a smart way to go. I actually did that in game number 1 with the Milwaukee Brewers. That was the lone game that they lost by only 1 run, so thank goodness gracious I didn't do that the rest of the series, and I just didn't fool around. I took the Dodgers either on the money line or the run line, but that's something that I did myself, so we shall see what is all going to be happening on this front. And my man William, we've got ourselves such a really good we've got ourselves what is going to be an amazing Game 7. I hope we get a good World Series. It does feel pretty inevitable with the LA Dodgers, but I know that you've been doing a great job breaking down baseball all season long. You're going to be dialed in for the World Series, and I know that you're going to do an excellent job on that front, so let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, of course. You can find everything on Twitter/X at WBOR, WBOOR. I am also on Blue Sky, same handle. If you just want all the bets, those are in the Action Network app. My username there is _. That'll be all my bets from myself, but also be sure to check out everything my colleagues are doing. We've obviously got a ton of NFL, college football content. College basketball is right around the corner. We'll have a ton of stuff. Obviously, the World Series, NBA starting soon. I think, as you mentioned at the top, like if you can bet it in North America, we've got it.
Absolutely. William is doing such an incredible job over at Action Network, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to William for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for Game 7 of the ALCS as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by our guy, William Boor, who does such a tremendous job over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to William for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for Game 7 of the ALCS as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. It is incredibly easy to be able to go in Las Vegas rotation order because, well, there's one game on the rotation. It is a Game 7, and how about if we dive in 9:05, 9:06? It is the Seattle Mariners on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays. Shane Bieber has a fever for getting outs, and George Kirby goes for Seattle. The total on this game is 7.5. Over is between even money to -110, -110 to -120 is that number on Toronto. And right now with the Mariners, you're finding them as bad as -105. Right now, seeing a lot of even money, even a +106 out there between -110 to -120, seeing a -121 as well. That is your number on the Toronto Blue Jays. And I made the Seattle Mariners just the slightest of slight favorites at a -104. I'm going to be willing to ride with them on the money line. And the big reason why is that I just feel like there's a little bit more supporting George Kirby than there is on the flip side for the Toronto Blue Jays. Kirby does have a 4.50 ERA between the regular season and the postseason, and he did get completely lit up for 8 earned runs given up in that game number 3 start, but still, he's getting career high 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only been allowing about 1.2 home runs and 2.2 walks per 9 innings. That regular season fielding independent of a 337 very much speaks to me. And for Shane Bieber, between the regular season and the postseason, 3.67 ERA, it was pretty rock solid in that game number 3 start. Didn't necessarily light the world on fire, but he has been giving up the deep ball himself, giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. He faces off against a Mariners lineup that they've been much more lethal with their offense when they've been away from home rather than at home. That makes sense because Seattle is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks that you're going to find in all of baseball, with the big dumper Cal Raleigh now up to 64 home runs between the regular season and the postseason. But although a lot of people think that it's a Seattle Mariners team that's very all or nothing at the plate, you've got plenty of guys that find a way to be able to get on base. Josh Naylor all throughout the season was hitting above a 250. He's got 3 home runs here in the postseason. You've had Julio Rodriguez not necessarily do the world's greatest job with his average, but he's got 3 home runs here in the postseason. During the regular season, Dom Canzone was give you about a 300 average. He's been falling off a little bit here in the postseason, but still have a lot of guys like a Randy Arozarena who have been in these spots I think are going to be able to move line. And And for the Blue Jays, I just don't have a lot of faith in this bullpen. We saw what happened in game number 5 when Brandon Little gave up all those runs. You've got a guy in Sir Anthony Dominguez that during the regular season did have a sub-350 ERA, but hard to have a lot of faith in him. Uriel Rodriguez had a little bit of fall in the second half of the season. Now, you do have the likes of a Chris Bassett, Max Scherzer that you're able to rely upon in the bullpen. Those are guys that are as veteran as it gets. They've been in big-time spots, but you also have Brian Wu on the flip side for the Seattle Mariners. We saw him pitch 2 relatively solid innings in game number 5. He's going to be all good to go here. You've got the likes of Andres Munoz, Matt Brash. They did use Brash out of the bullpen yesterday. Gabe Spire. All these guys who have been able to post up a sub-350 ERA during the regular season. You did have Edward Barzardo come in for 2 innings on Sunday, but he only threw 15 pitches. Like, with only throwing 15 pitches, I recognize that it's still 2 innings. He should conceivably be able to come back in this one. Now, I do like the over because you do have a Blue Jays team that ever since the All-Star break, they've been averaging 5.6 runs per game. That leads all of baseball. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is just a man possessed right now. 23 home runs during the regular season, 5 home runs here in the postseason. Actually, 6 home runs with a home run that he hit yesterday. He and Ernie Clement have been hitting a 400 plus here in the postseason. Nathan Lucas has been able to above a 300 as well. He's been able to do a nice job finding a way to be able to move the line, get on base. Edison Barger had a home run yesterday. George Springer, he had that contusion in game number 5, but he's back in the lineup. He's all good to go. Looked a little bit more gimpy at the plate on Sunday, but still, he should be rock solid. He should be good to go. Don't call his name. Alexander Kirk has 3 home runs here in the postseason, so I do think that both of these starting pitchers are going to give up runs, but it's what comes after that, and I think that what the Mariners have behind George Kirby is a little bit more substantial than that of the Blue Jays. With the way that the Mariners have been able to hit all season long, I think that they can keep up with those Blue Jays bats. I set my total at 7.9, so at the 7.5, I'm in on the over, and I am in on the Mariners on the money line. Would be willing to take pretty much any sort of a plus number / even money on them, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to William Boor. He does such an amazing job over at Action Network. He joined me in segment number 2. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LarsDM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I am with you guys every single day on this podcast. That we have games. We'll try to keep this podcast running every single day. I might take a day off between the Championship Series and the World Series, but if there's a game on the board, I will certainly be breaking that down, and I'll have you guys all covered there. So I appreciate you tuning in today, and I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.